well, depending how quick I can get us all out and whether or not anybody will listen. But in one of my recent shorts where I did a cut and collab on, somebody asked me by the name of Burnus Rogerson 9224 commented whether or not they would have given me a thumbs up if I were on the right side of the Constitution and not the new laws in relation to my opinion on the Second Amendment and the Constitution. Well, here's how it stands. Uh, I believe in the Second Amendment and I believe in the Constitution. I fought for it. I served as an infantryman 20 years ago. So I definitely know my fair share of experience with weapon systems that are leaps and bounds ahead of what the civilians have nowadays. In fact, some of your civilian weapon systems are kind of catching up as far as like functionality and the ability to put rounds downrange, especially with the whole binary trigger systems that are coming out for pistols and rifles and whatnot. But Ben Rogerson 9224 said during the time that the Constitution was being written and all that stuff, and for the people that were following it, back then people could own cannons and all sorts of stuff, even tanks. But I was trying to write a comment, but I kind of flubbed it by accidentally hitting a wrong button, so I lost everything that I'd written, but I tried my best to memorize exactly what I said. And it goes like this. Some of the switches that were being shown in the video by the dude are not, by their own existence, legal. Most of the switches that are being found and confiscated these days by law enforcement and stuff like that, through raids or arrests and stuff like that, they're being linked to China, which is right now our biggest political and military enemy. Not to mention the largest entity that goes out of its way to steal ideas, infringe on them, and then put their own spin and production on it. Right now, Gaston Glock will probably be rolling in his grave, noting that there are these switches that bear the name Glock, but were never made by Glock. Yeah. But because these are being mostly made by China, and then the few others are being made by CNC machines and 3D printers here in the United States, they themselves are illegal by existence. And because of the criminal elements in our past and all the freaking wackos that have gone off and gone postal, it really makes it hard for law-abiding citizens to even own some of the stuff because of the laws that were passed during that time frame, and including in the last century. And it made it harder on us, especially with the taxation and all that stuff. And here's the thing. While I believe in the Second Amendment, and I do believe that the people have the right to defend themselves, there is something that is generally overlooked. And I wish most people thought about it first before reaching and misinterpreting the Second Amendment as they think they can. Because we're guilty of it as civilians, as veterans, and even the politicians up the hill are even bad about it. But here it is. Forgive me if I'm quoting Spider-Man's Uncle Ben, but Uncle Ben was right. With great power comes great responsibility. Firearms ownership is not just a right or a privilege, it is a responsibility. Meaning that responsibility is, one, if we're going to own firearms to maintain our ability to defend ourselves from tyrannical governments or from criminal elements or from whatever it says, we have to be responsible. We have to train with these things. We have to use them responsibly. We can't use them willy-nilly. Because for those people that say, oh, we should have tanks, we should have bombs, explosives, nukes, and all that stuff, those things are big responsibilities. In fact, as an example, my first year and a half in service as an infantryman, I was a rifleman. I did not get to work a machine gun until I was proven to be responsible enough to use it, because a machine gun is a force multiplier for a small infantry unit, especially if you got a light machine gun and then you got the weapons squad that carries the big M240s or the tow missiles and stuff like that. Those guys have a heck of a job, and they are trusted with those weaponry. Yeah, LMG, light machine guns. Uh, yeah, light machine guns being smaller than and lighter than heavy machine guns go to. Yeah, but once you got past familiarization and training, you were entrusted with that weapon to know when to use it and when to employ it in the battlefield. Now, civilians have, yeah, M249 is a light machine gun coded. For the civilian population, it's so easy for you guys to purchase a gun, especially if you don't have the wait period, or if you're a citizen of the state and you can just like get it right there and then. All you have to do is show an ID and address with your valid address, and then fill out the paperwork, pay cash or card, whatever, and you get it. But it is inherently up to everyone to not just be able to use your Second Amendment rights and have the right to bear arms, but there is an inherent responsibility for you to train, to become familiar with it, but also become familiar with what it means to use it in the situations that can come up. There are many situations that you may need to use a gun to defend yourself. But in these strange times that we find in, now you might need to get firearms or concealed carry insurance, because you never know, because the cops might end up arresting you for the shooting even though you were in the right. But stupid technicalities exist. But like I said, it's a right and it's not just a right and a privilege, it's a responsibility. Not everybody should have machine guns, civilians wise and everything, because you are entailing a lot of trust. You do not want you don't need a whole bunch of people getting a hold of stuff like that, because you never know. Everybody can have a bad day. And then you can always have a guy that's super cranky, like a Scrooge or whatever. And that kind of is where freaking those stupid red flag laws came along, which have been well known to be abused by friends and family members to disarm what they think is disgruntled or mentally ill freaking people, even though they're not. They just don't. They're just family members that just love to fuck with people. But because of our history as a people, there's always going to be the bad apples that are going to screw things over for us. Hence why these laws are what they are and how long they've been in effect. And yeah. But if people would stop thinking with their feelings and actually kind of educate themselves a little bit, then just maybe we might be better off. But unfortunately, there's this weird counterculture of things where it seems okay to like flaunt your criminality. I see it on the shorts all the time. Illegal switches, people shooting where they shouldn't be shooting, people flagging each other with loaded weapons, with their fingers on the trigger and stuff like that. It's insane. I keep worrying that freaking... Oh, I don't have to worry. I'm not like any of those people where I'm doing that stuff. But I do worry that freaking people that are posting that stuff are giving the exact amount of ammunition to the people that want to enforce all these gun laws on us. I mean, it's counterintuitive and stupid. We all know that criminals do not obey gun laws. That's a proven fact. And all those gun laws that get passed, they get thrown back on us, which the law-abiding citizens detest. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm all for it for people owning certain firearms and stuff like that. But if you're gonna own them and you're gonna use them, do so responsibly, and don't use them as like a crutch to get away with things or make an excuse to use them in a way that's inappropriate. It's just relatively stupid. I mean, like I said, having been in the military as an infantryman, uh, we couldn't get away with using our guns and stuff like that irresponsibly. We'd get NJP'd or Article 15'd or freaking extra duty and stuff like that. We'd lose rank and pay over it. In fact, we could probably get freaking kicked out just for it. It's just, I'm quite certain that there are people that would use any firearm responsibly. It's just that we're a small population. There's a small population of us that believe in the Constitution and in the Second Amendment, and we have the moral upstanding to do what's right when it's absolutely necessary, and even when nobody's looking, we do the right thing. But if the civilian population is going to be trusted fully with the Second Amendment and the ability to have such firearms or cannons or explosives and stuff like that, I would wholeheartedly be for firearms education and training that was a long time ago during like our grandparents or when, or like my uncles who were born in the 60s and 70s. Uh, they had firearms training sometimes back in school. In fact, they were the part of the generation that still had shotguns and rifles on the back of their windows in their trucks because they were the kinds of people that after school let out, they'd go out hunting. And there was never an issue there and then with people getting shot or people doing stupid things with guns. Just not. Even the times during my grandparents, when they were young, they had firearms education in school. Not just the, oh, wait, which gun did I operate, Goated? Well, I operated a rifle like a standard M4. Not the one with the full auto, but the one with 3-round burst on it. Uh, I've operated the M203 attachment underneath it. That's the grenade launcher. Uh, I operated the M249 for about a year and a half during my first combat tour. I have weapons familiarization and experience with the M240 Bravo. I have some working experience with the M2 Browning, the big 50 cal. I never got to work with a Mark 19 at all. That would have been nice. Nothing like full automatic grenade launchers going. Doo, 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 doo. That's fun. But working familiarization with the M9 back then, before they changed out for what it was Beretta then, and now it's what Sig Sauer now. But yeah, I even have a little bit of working experience with how to employ claymores and stuff like that, and usage of a C4 and deck cord and stuff like that. Even though that was mostly what the engineers messed with, some of them were kind enough to teach us how to use that stuff. But yeah, if we were to get rid of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, like the state of which they are now, which is this weird governing body that seems to want to pass its own rules and laws and enforce what the hell ever, I'd be more in favor of an ATF that actually taught people how to use these firearms and explosives and stuff like that. I mean, like I said, there's nothing wrong with knowing how to use it. It's the when and the why. But that's another thing. Uh, Everybody keeps saying that with the Second Amendment that the civilian populace should have the right to bear weapons that are current even now, especially anything that's in common usage. Uh, well, here's the big thing. Here's the big thing that a lot of people overlook. If you want to have, if the civilian population wants to have the same armory as the military, uh, you're going to need armorers and the mechanics to fix that stuff, because this is not me dumping on you guys. It's not. The mechanics and the requirements to fix certain firearms, especially anything that's full automatic, like light machine guns and heavy machine guns and all sorts of other stuff, you're going to need an armor. And those aren't going to be cheap. You break apart like an operating rod, gas tube, fire control group, or even so much as like overheat a barrel. You're going to need somebody to fix that stuff, and it's never going to be cheap. Never. Break a trigger group or a bolt assembly. Oh yeah, you're definitely going to need an armor and the parts. If you're going to get a tank or a cannon or stuff like that, something that's needs to be mobile, like pulled by a vehicle, especially a strong vehicle, you're going to need the mechanics for that. And those are not going to be cheap, and neither are the parts. And again, responsibility. If you're going to own those things, you got to have the responsibility and the wherewithal to maintain them properly if you're not using them at all. Because most of the time, where are all our firearms at? If they're not our everyday carry on our person or in our gun safes. Grenades, smoke grenades, and flashbangs. Grenades and smoke grenades, but never flashbangs. We never... Basic level infantry groups, we don't get flashbangs. That's more like Rangers and SF and Delta. They use those things more often. And also military police, they tend to use those things as well. But grenades, we were issued them, but we never got to use them as much because armchair colonels decided to say, oh, we don't need to be giving them grenades or let them use the 40 mics for the M203s or the Mark 19s because they were too worried about collateral damage. Yeah, telling warriors not to blow stuff up because they're worried about collateral damage. Well, FV Ordnance, yeah, you would be right. Oshkosh Defense, I've heard about them. But, yeah. If people really want to have all the stuff that the military has, then pretty much like it says, a well trained and a well armed militia. People either gotta train or, well, don't hate on me for this one, but if people want these weapons and they want to know how to use them, I'd be all for you if you signed up and served. No, I'm not saying freaking volunteer just so you can get weapons experience and all that stuff. I mean, kinda I am. But the military can teach you all a great deal about the weapons you would like to own and use. And they will teach you how to employ and use them responsibly. Forget about being the whole thing where you get to engage the enemy and all that stuff with it. I don't... with our current state of running proxy wars, I don't think we're actually going to be fighting anybody soon, because the last 20 years, I believe everybody, including any guy I've served with who stayed in long enough, we got tired of the 20-year freaking war shit. We do not want to pull that shit again. Rather go in, fuck shit up, come right back. Put that nail in the coffin right there and then. But, yeah. If you want to follow the Constitution down to the letter, yeah. Everybody needs to have firearms to protect themselves. Not just from criminals. Not just from criminal elements. Have I handled an RPG-7? No, I have not. That's not in our... that's not in our weapons... TO and E. That's more of like the Chinese and the Russians. That's their particular weapon. I have handled a small D and stuff like that. That which is basically our version of rocket launchers or anti-tank munitions that can be shoulder fired, but those things are like one-time use things. We basically shoot and forget, and then a super shoddy? No. We do not have the super shoddies shotguns. If you're thinking about what they've called back in the past, like the Master Key system, an underslung shotgun underneath a rifle. Again, regular infantry, we don't get those at all. We usually get like a regular full-size shotgun, like a Remington 870. And on the level, first tour we went on, they gave us the full-size Remington 870s, but because they were so long and ungainly, and it made it freaking... Oh, yeah, we still get shotguns, but no Spaz 12s, nothing like that. We didn't get any semi-autos or anything like that. Just pump action. The Marines, on the other hand, they got the Benelli M4. I do believe that one was semi-auto. But during our first tour of duty, we ended up cutting down the stock and the barrel on our Remington 870s to make them pistol grip size, because it was a lot easier to transition and sling them without getting caught in doorways on them. But afterwards, when we came back, they had to be destroyed because we had modified them. I don't think we were issued shotguns again during my second tour because whatever reasons. But we were also getting we were getting the M14s issued back to us because we were getting designated marksmen inserted into our groups and trained for that stuff. But when we got the M14s before we deployed, they had the old wood stock with like some of the Bakelite grips up front. Like likely they had literally been pulled out of storage. And then I think it was about halfway through the tour that those wood stocks and Bakelite grips got replaced by that new what was it, that EGR stock? Yeah, it had the collapsible butt stock and the skeletonized plastic frame to fit the receiver in. Have I seen a Stinger? I've seen one, but it ended up getting blown up because it was like in a cache. So we had to blow it all up. I mean, the most I've seen The most I've seen weapons-wise, especially if it's not an American weapon system, I've seen everything from like mortar systems, like little knee mortars. Yes, FE ordnance. Firearms are not just or only about hunting or defense. Most of the stuff that I have seen that is not part of the American firearms of standard usage in the military. I've seen knee mortars, which look like tiny little tubes that have a little base plate and they can shoot tiny little mortar projectiles. I've seen uh, 81 millimeter mortars. Have I seen any paratrooper deploy? Well, let's put it this way. Coming from an airborne unit that only has airborne on it as a force matter of history, I was with the 101st Airborne. Trust me, we did not fly in on parachutes. The only people that I knew that flew in parachutes during any tour was the airborne group from Vicenza, Italy. Those are the only guys that I believe that got their mustard stains on their jump wings. I mean, I was ground infantry. The most anything I've ever did was learn how to fast rope. That was cool. Hurt my ankles and knees a lot, but yeah. But I have never seen or been part of any paratrooper operations. Now maybe anybody that freaking went in with under the 82nd Airborne, they probably jumped in because they're still an active airborne unit, so they have to do that. They have to do their quals, do their jumps. Yes, I have seen double-barreled shotguns. I've seen plenty of those. Go to a gun shop often enough, as I do, you will see a lot of old double-barrel shotguns, and you will even see maybe a couple of new double barrels. The only thing I know I have not seen goated is a double-barreled rifle, because they're fucking expensive, and they're like the unicorns. Mythical and powerful, I mean. That, or if you watch Kentucky Ballistics often enough, you'll see plenty of those too. But most of the double barrel shotguns I've seen are just old. I mean, they would be considered like wall hangers. And if you need to know what a wall hanger is, it's basically a weapon that's so old, might be a little bit rusty, and the action might be a little bit hinky to the point where you cannot trust it to shoot safely without either blowing up itself. Oh, what's the latest shotgun I've seen? I can be honest with you. The latest shotgun I've seen has been the ones I have. My newest one is a Keltec KS7. My primary shotgun is a Remington 870 Tactical with an extended magazine tube and Magpul furniture. So I've got a little bit of a round count advantage on that one. Glock 18 Charlie. Are you talking about the... Oh, Glock 18 Charlie. The Gaston Glock's only one select fire Glock. In fact, it's the only Glock I will acknowledge that has the properly made built-in switch into it on the side of the receiver, not this not this stuff that you pop off. That, yeah, it's too fast and very, very powerful. There were only 2 models of it made, I believe, and it was exclusively made for the military and the police force. And people think that thing was brand spanking new. No. I think a Glock 18, when it came out around the same time as the first Glock 17. Right there is in the middle late 80s. Uh, now, drum mags for like pistols like that. Goated. I hate to break it to you, but drum mags and something like that are too heavy, and also because of the weight of a drum mag, it would not hold the magazine release button and the bar inside of the grip. Would have a hard time holding on to that thing, even though I would just do. If you're gonna shoot anything like that, just use a stick mag. They seat in proper, and the magazine release catch would actually hold onto the magazine better because the weight won't be pulling at the spring in the plastic too damn much, especially downwards because of the gravity of a drum mag being so bottom heavy. But yeah, though I believe the Glock 18 was discontinued simply because there was a lack of interest. Favorite ammo? Uh, 5.56 green tip. Uh, double aught, triple aught buck for 12 gauge. 9 mil, pretty much any standard 115, 147 grain bullet. Uh, hollow points only for my smaller EDC. Favorite revolver calibers are 357 Magnum and 38 Special, plus P if you got it. But other than that, there are other rounds I have that are more for specialty shooting, like for hunting. I got 30-06 Springfield, and for one of my antiques that's still a functioning rifle, I've got an SMLE #1 Mark III Star, and that one that's in 303 British. No, I'm not going to show you any firearms on this live stream simply because I do not want somebody. Well, let's put it this way: I don't want somebody reporting me for possibly doing something that they think would be unsafe. Oh, the rounds? Oh yeah, I can show you the rounds. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. This right here is a charger clip for my SMLE. Holds about 5 rounds of 303 British. Mind you, this is the modern 303 British with the soft lead tip on there. It's basically a hunting ammunition. I'm actually hard pressed to at least find the ammunition that's just like straight Spitzer bullet with none of the soft tips, but have to deal with what I can get. But you are able to get the strippers and chargers for these online. This is for the SMLE, the 303. Yeah, the SMLE is an old bolt action British rifle that served the British Army for a good while from well, from the Lee Metford to the Lee Enfield. Uh, that was like from the late 1890s going into, I think, all the way up to the 1950s for the Brits. I also got subsonics, but they are expensive as hell. Oh, what's my favorite firearm that I own? Uh, well, I don't particularly have a favorite. I mean, I do like to collect certain ones. The SMLE's been my first one to collect as far as like older weapons. That one set me back about $500 something, maybe more after tax. I think the one thing that may have cost me more than anything will be my AR-15. I've bought it stock as is from a local gun store, and I've replaced pretty much uh hmm replaced the furniture like the buttstock, the pistol grip. I've changed out the bolt carrier group. Uh, uh, bu- buffer. Went and got a silent capture buffer spring and all that stuff, and that one has all the bells and whistles like a hollow sun red dot and magnifier, laser sighting, and tack light on it. I think I've spent equal to about the same amount that the rifle cost on it. So that including the can that is on it. Actually, yeah, actually, both my silencers cost more than both silencers that I got a couple years ago cost pretty much, I think, more than at least a couple of my rifles that I have right now. Both of them cost me about $500. Nope, I don't have anything in the Magnum category. If you can't tell, I've got some relatively small wrists, big forearms. Uh, the only Magnum I shoot is about 357 Magnum, and that's about as much as I can handle. Anything else, I'm probably gonna break my wrist. And I've already have broken bones in my wrist if you cannot hear them. Yeah, 357 and below, nothing more. Actually, Robin, you do have a good point. There would probably would be a threshold, and quite honestly, there there has been an attempt at laws like this. To be honest, it would be a hard day for the government to freaking make people to make responsible laws that would hold the irresponsible accountable at all. But I see where you're going with that one. But personal accountability, that would be all on you. But I'm not gonna preach about morality or anything like that to people because I'm not the one to preach about it, and clearly I don't think anybody's qualified to preach about morality. Not even a priest. Well, again, Robin, that is also a good point. Uh, the whole good guy with gun responsibility thing, yeah, it really comes down to the responsibility. It wouldn't have to be just a matter of whether or not it would have to be a matter of morals like that because we can. It's not every day that you can just like where you run into a situation like yeah, teachers being given guns to defend students from school shooters. That's kind of a weird bet because you're asking one profession to basically commit to holding another profession like being a security guard. Uh, yeah, with the way teachers have to deal with kids now and kids being unruly, that right now, I'd rather the money being spent to teach kids better than give teachers guns to defend them from school shooters. Because, give an example, my brother in law tried teaching and he barely lasted 1 year because the kids literally drove him insane. And he was teaching uh, high schoolers and they were just unruly. And this was a school that had already had a history of like shootings and gun violence. But yeah, uh, with his own issues, I would not trust him with a firearm and access accessibility to a firearm in that situation because I'd worry about him. I would worry about any teacher flipping on a student by pulling out a gun, especially if it doesn't even call for it. Oh, Virginia. My brother was trying to be a teacher in Virginia. Newport News, Virginia. You know, was. Goaded, what do you mean about would the gun blow up or would I blow up? What are you talking about there? Yeah, because if it's here's the thing, Robin. The way things are at schools right now, we've got disrespectful kids that will hurt anybody at a moment's notice, and we also got teachers that are even less qualified to teach, let alone be around kids, that are weak, pedantic, and too quick to freaking jump off. And I think that's the last thing we need, is to have teachers be armed. Maybe if the circumstances were different and we had, well, goaded. That's not a matter of what I would like to be issued. I've already been issued weapons before in one time in my life, but I'm happy with the weapons that I have procured over my lifetime right now, because they're mine and I don't have to turn them into an arms room. I don't have to stand in line and sign paperwork. I own and I have what I have, and I don't feel the need to have any more. To be honest, Goated, it really doesn't matter anymore for me. If I could get anyone, it really wouldn't matter, as long as it was one functioning and had plenty of ammo. But because I'm also a family man, I have to take into account that freaking what I have on me or near me is exactly all that I need. I don't have a wish list or anything like that. And because still an infantryman at heart, uh, I can't technically have too many weapons on me, because ounces lead to pounds, pounds lead to pain. And if you don't know what that means, basically, if you carry too much, you're only hurting yourself, because you lose all that speed and freedom of movement if you're carrying just too much stuff. It's not like we can arm up and gear up like Arnold Schwarzenegger and a bunch of his action flicks with a little music montage, and he's strapping freaking knives and grenades and slinging weapons all over each shoulder and carrying stuff in duffel bags like that. Totally unrealistic. Cool, but unrealistic. Uh, Now, back to Robin. One thing I do consider something that would work better if they're going to fund money towards protecting schools is employing veterans with combat experience, and rather than just using wow. Who's the name of that lawmaker that came up with that law? Tried to strike down keeping sex offenders and domestic abusers from owning firearms. Because last time I checked, that you tell me that they were trying to strike down the Brady Act. Oh, in response to Goaded, the Barrett, the Barrett 50 cal, those are all good now, but they're kind of dated. There are other better sniper systems out there in the 50 cal and 338 Lapua range, but Barretts are okay, but they're kind of in the times. But I believe veterans serve a better purpose protecting soft target places like schools, churches, and hospitals, because one, you could pay us a lot just to guard anything. You can even pay us nothing. We could even volunteer to do it, because it would be a civil service for us. And also, one, I've never been big on SROs in schools because I'm a firm believer that the moment you put cops in charge of discipline in schools, that's where some problems start to happen. Because I've always believed, even when I was a kid in high school, that if cops were around the school, they would be used by the teachers to go after students that they think were had problems and stuff like that. You know, the whole creation of the school to prison pipeline. I cannot go into full. I've seen when I was a kid how a bunch of kids would get their lives thrown to the wayside because of teachers using cops in school to screw up their lives even further, like predestining them to fuck up and stuff like that. And also, I've heard all the horror stories about SROs being heavy handed on kids, causing them injuries and stuff like that. Sorry, but schools are not police states at all. I do not believe in SROs all that much. Uh, AK-47, I've seen those. I mean, they're great rifles. I mean, they pretty much can shoot just for about any type of environment with all sorts of stuff in them, but they're not my deal. Yeah, it doesn't matter what designation of AK. It could be a 47, it could be a 74, it could be an RPK. Yeah, the Brady Law has been around for a long time, and it was around when I was a kid. But yeah, the Brady Law made an exemption that the Brady Law was actually a pretty big thing while I was in the military because it was one of those things that was posted on the arms room door. Basically, if you got convicted of domestic battery or assault, even while in the military, and if you were in an MOS where you had access to firearms and stuff like that, you could either you would either get Article 15 kicked out or forcibly changed your MOS to where you could not have access to firearms at all, even if the job required you to use them for training purposes and stuff like that. All right, Goded, you can. I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions, stuff like that. You have a good one. But yeah, those are one of the two things that could happen to you if you screwed up in the military and you committed domestic battery and stuff like that. You'd either get kicked out dishonorably, and you would lose your a lot of rights and privileges right there and then with a bad mark on your record like that. If you didn't already go to like jail or stuff like that. Oh yeah, it's kind of weird how many clones of like Mossberg and Remington are out there. Like, let me get. If I had to guess which clone you were using, would it be an H and R? I believe H&R did clones of the 870 and the 500, maybe even the 590. I could be wrong. But I also know of like Dickersons and stuff like that. I mean, there's so many weird clones of like main brand firearms, but at least their interchangeability as far as parts go is still the same. Yep, I've had a couple of those, mostly 12 gauge. Yep, the good old partner. I'm actually wishing the military still kept on to the Beretta, seeing how Beretta themselves have updated their M9 systems. I've seen the one that looks like it comes in an ammo box now with all the bells and whistles on it. Uh, Honestly, I think they should have the military should have held out and kept the Beretta contract going, especially that the new ones do have the modified slides for red dot optics on them now, and the fully integrated pick rail underneath. That way you can put a tack light on. I'm not a big fan of the ones that they've got right now. It's like the current sidearm because issues. I don't trust weapons that if you can lock and load them and then accidentally drop them, that they'd fire even if the hammer is not pulled back. I mean, hell, honestly, I wouldn't freaking mind if the military switched back from a 9mm and went back to a 45 with a 1911. I mean, even though you have a less round count with a 1911, like anywhere between 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10 round magazines, you'd still have at least decent knockdown power. 9mm just seems to go through enemy combatants like freaking, like shooting 22s at freaking an aluminum can. It just like goes in and out. I mean, damn. I remember a company called Para Ordnance. They were like, I think, the first company I saw that created a double stacked magazine 1911. Heavy as hell, thick grip, but it worked. Now imagine if the military had gotten hold of that. That would have been a hell of a contract. Sorry, my nose is itching up a storm because of my allergies. Any other questions from Robin or anybody else? Excuse me, I gotta blow my nose real quick. I'm back. Summertime allergies do get the best of me. I mean, it's been a while since I've had hay fever or stuff like that, but the pollen and the ragweed around here in Virginia is just, awful. So, if I have to take a Benadryl, I'm probably gonna have to cut everything short because Benadryl knocks me out like a damn freaking rhino. Taking a sedative. Ugh. Texas, come on, you can do better than that. Damn, Robin, that that's weird. One, considering it's coming from Texas, and that from the Fifth Circuit Appeals, ruling in favor of those fuckers to keep firearms. I'm sorry, but hell no. I do not believe in convicted domestic abusers with restraining orders to be allowed to keep and obtain firearms. Sorry. If they can hit you and leave bruises, then they can definitely do a lot more, like stabbing you and freaking shooting you or even threatening you with firearms. Sorry, but hell no. A man, I'll say it here, a man that hits a woman or beats a child or lays their hand on old folks, wherever they use for their fists, a belt, a knife, or a gun, is a bitch. And they will be treated as so by better, stronger, wiser, and more upstanding men than that. I mean, God God knows there have been freaking times I wanted to pistol whip a motherfucker for doing that shit to a woman or a child or an old person. It really gets underneath my skin because I have a wife and a kid. I would not want anybody touching them like that. that, that uh, do you live in Texas, Robin? Is that what is it, or is that just where you found that reference for it on the Brady Law there? Yep. Sorry. I hope you guys don't mind me eating. I gotta eat something to keep my blood sugar level. If you're if you were to get shot by 9 mil in a non-vital spot, your survivability rate would probably be in the 90s percentile. But it also depends on where you're getting shot. That's a non-vital area. You might end up having some like muscle damage, uh, nerve damage, maybe some partial mobility issues later on. Because if you get shot in a joint, ball socket, or a large muscle group, you're gonna be feeling it for a little bit. Oh, if you get gut shot anywhere right here, kidney, spleen, or anything like that, your survivability will probably drop from being in the high 90s to maybe anywhere in the 50s and 40s. Because getting gut shot is painful. Very, very painful. Not to mention all the blood vessels and organs. And also, hydrostatic shock. The impact of the bullet going in you and all that energy freaking causing the freaking wound cavity and channel going in and through and out of you. Not to mention the blood loss. Also, if you're going to get shot in the kidneys, or any kidney, expect to probably be on dialysis for a little bit. Because that one kidney is going to have to be doing all the work that two were supposed to be doing. Are you asking, Robin, are you asking how many years I've been out of service? Well, considering that my last year of service, I got out in November of 2006. I've been out for a bit. How bad is an RPG malfunction? Oh. That one could easily be looked up on YouTube. Goated. A guy tried shooting an RPG and he had a malfunction and it blew up on him. He survived, he got burned a bit, but it blew up when he was had it shouldered right on him. I don't even think the projectile left the launcher tube. It just blew up right there and then. Look it up. Trust me, the guy was lucky. Yeah. Craziest military story. Here, oh boy. I got a few of them, but one stands out the most. Simply because it was one of those what the fuck moments. We were walking into Baghdad. This is during the walk up to the war. After about 2 weeks or so, we made it into Baghdad. We were freaking walking in from the outside. Me and my squad were checking out these little like artillery bunkers that were built in some sand dunes next to like some canals and stuff. There. Some of the guns were being hidden in the canals next to like the green brush, and our job was to like dismantle or disable the artillery pieces to keep them from being used again to be shoot shells and stuff like that. My team leader throws a thermite grenade down the barrel of one of these things, and we stepped back to watch to make sure that the barrel melted and all that stuff, because thermite's supposed to melt shit. We end up freaking having to run away because one of the guys noticed like the rounds are underneath the gun's platform. Now, with the thermite melting through the barrel and everything, it was going to drop on top of those rounds, and that melted freaking gun barrel stuff would have hit those rounds and caused that stuff to go off. Upon noticing that, we ran like hell from it. Because we did not want to be there when those shells were about to explode. Nobody died, but could have. Nobody died, goated. Nobody died. Not in that event, at least. I'm thinking, have I watched Godzilla? I've seen nearly all the Godzillas, and I'm not talking the current ones. I'm talking about the old ones. The only Godzilla movie I know I haven't watched is the most recent one. Oh, damn. Damn, Robin. Sorry to hear that. And to go to know, thermonuclear Godzilla does not remind me of much of anything. What's this shit? Hold up. Somebody's posted a message. It's held for review. What do you mean by alpha gen brain rot? Are you talking about the current generation of people? Goated? Is that what you mean? And no, Robin, I do not believe you are a POS. I think would be Goated. I think it would be my best interest not to say anything about alpha gen brain rot, because simply because there's just too many of them right now, and I think of them a lot like coyotes. One is nothing to fear, especially when they appear weak and they're no challenge to you. But get enough of them all together, you have a whole pack of coyotes, then you got a problem. Because then they drop the fear and they become fearless and they think they can get away with anything. Cool beans. Haven't heard that one said in a while. The one thing that worries me more than alpha gen brain rot, Goated, is the continuing generation of kids and family members that are constantly dropping off the face of the earth due to drugs. I mean, I don't believe alpha gen brain rot people are going to freaking make our country any better. I think they're going to make things a lot worse. If any of you have ever seen Idiocracy, that's kind of where we're already at. I mean, it's been going that way for a long time since I was a kid, where intelligence was punished and stupidity was rewarded. But with people not sure what gender they want to be, or people not being sure what they want to identify as at the drop of a hat or flip of a coin, we also have to deal with the fact that we have a generation of people that are not going to make it into adulthood because drugs are freaking killing them. And not just alcohol or freaking weed, the fucking hard shit and then the prescribed shit. I think where we're going is, I think the direction we're going in as a country, politically, with Second Amendment issues coming up, and the issues that we're currently dealing with drugs and immigration, and where we stand politically in regards to the rest of the world, we're all kind of screwed. we as a country are kind of screwed up. We don't know what to fix and we don't know what to address without arguing or splitting off into groups, getting caught up in the whole cults of personality. After the political debate, the Democrats are freaking scrambling, but I don't think there's a decent Democrat in the world. To be honest, to be real honest with you, Robin, I don't think I'm ever going to freaking vote Democrat. I don't think I'm ever going to want to vote Republican. I don't belong to either party, actually. I've actually given consideration for voting for RFK Jr. But quite frankly, I do believe we the Americans deserve a presidential candidate that is mentally fit, can stand by his words and policies, and not to mention somebody that has some military service in their background. Because I am sick and tired of having presidents that have, one, never served their country in the armed forces, have taken deferments for some bullshit medical issue like bone spurs or asthma, or if they took deferments for educational purposes. I mean, look at Biden. That motherfucker was a low grade freaking, low end of his freaking class grade wise throughout most of his adult life before he became a politician. Honestly, I don't believe anybody should qualify for president if they took a deferment, especially when the country called for service. I don't believe the title of commander in chief for a president should be just in title alone. Commander in chief means you know how to command members of the armed forces in some way. Biden's son, you mean Bo? He died of cancer, and I don't think he was in the Navy. I think he may have been in the Army. Excuse me. But other than that, I don't even like hearing about Biden's son. I don't even like hearing about the one that's a fuck up. Yeah, and it doesn't matter whether they served as an officer or as a non-commissioned officer, an NCO, a sergeant, and stuff like that. If you served in the military, I believe that service in the military should be a prerequisite for becoming a president. I mean, the last time we had a president that actually served in the military was the older George Washington when we were a kid. When I was a kid in the late 80s to early 90s, before Clinton took over. And no, the other George Bush doesn't count because he skipped out on his duty requirements for the Air Force. When I found out about that stuff, he lost all my respect. Could give a damn whether or not he could still fly a plane and land it on an aircraft carrier to give us that message of mission accomplished. even though we hadn't accomplished anything other than starting something that would last for about 20 fucking years. I mean, honestly, freaking... There are a couple guys that I believe in the military that could be decent enough presidents, but it's just a matter of having the gumption or whether or not they would have the following. I mean, they would probably have the military following backing them for votes, but it's just a simple fact that freaking most people can't understand, civilian-wise, the thinking of a general or any officer or any other military man being as leaders of anything else other than the military. Oh yeah, it pisses me off too. I mean, the pullout from Afghanistan was freaking by far... Ugh. Not to mention all the equipment we left there. Forget the people that freaking... Well, I shouldn't say... Don't forget the people that died because of that fucking shitty pullout, but think about all the people, like the assets that we left behind there, including the equipment that is going to end up spun around and used on us maybe in 10, 20 freaking years, if they can figure out how to use it without breaking it the first time. But yeah, even though I served in the Army, I'm like third generation member of my family to serve, and I'm probably the last person in my family to serve. Nobody else in my family since then has gone into military service whatsoever. So I have that lone honor. I grew up a Marine Corps brat, so if there was anybody that I thought would be more qualified to be president and be believed and definitely have the fucking balls to fucking be the next president of the United States, I would go with General John Mattis. Mattis is like our generation's version of Eisenhower and Patton combined. Hell, if Norman Schwarzkopf were still alive, he would have made a great president too. Hell, Colin Powell would have been a great freaking general president, and we would have already got the stamp on that one because freaking, I think he would have been a great president too. Yep, warrior monk. Have a plan to kill everybody, even with the cheesecake knife. But yeah, if we had more guys or women, regardless of race and gender, and irregardless of what service they did in the military, I think our standing as a country would be a little bit more solid. We'd probably have a little bit more pride in ourselves. But as it stands, we have the misfortune of looking weak to our enemies, and we look weak even to our own people. And quite frankly, I believe Thomas Jefferson was right. Every now and then, the tree of liberty needs to be watered with the blood of patriots and tyrants. And not that I'm making a call for it, but it does seem inevitable, maybe for this next half century or not, that we may have to have another civil war, so to speak, on our own grounds. Because things need to change. Our country needs to change. And sometimes that change needs to be violent like an upheaval, like a volcano going off suddenly. I do believe people need to know their rights. I do believe people need to be able to express them freely without fear of persecution. I believe everybody has the right to defend themselves. It's a natural human right. And I think it's a civic duty for people to know their government's rules and their constitutional rights, all that stuff. I've got a copy of the Constitution in one of my little boxes, and I make it a thing to at least read some of it and try to understand it every day. Now, what do you mean by that one, Robin? I mean, I mean, I think you're touching on what they call Title IX. Oh, yeah. Okay, I get it. It's a joke. Yeah, gotcha. I know how the whole thing of great power and comes with great responsibility thing. I see it actually covers more than just the Second Amendment stuff. I think we as a people do have a great power and responsibility to a lot of things more than just our ability to own firearms. It's a more hear me out. I think it's a more encompassing thing. I think we have a duty and a right to take responsibility for how things have gone in our country. It's more than just more than just a few simple things about rights and privileges. And I actually think it's time that we, kind of pull ourselves up our shoestrings, regardless of what position we are in our country, and take some responsibility and try to fix what we have. Because right now it feels kind of like we're spiraling out of control, and everybody's watching. Not just the citizenry, not just the people on the hill and the government, but everybody's wondering what's going to happen next. Uh, how many people can I honestly say might agree with that? I mean, yeah, I've never been a big fan of NATO. Honestly, if freaking honestly, I honestly think the United States of America should just exit out of NATO. I can't remember the last time NATO did anything for us when it came to anything we were involved in. I don't remember hearing about that, but I'll take you at your word on that, Robin. NATO isn't just kind of a deterrent, it's not even a deterrent. Uh, In fact, it's more like a target. You go to any other country that's freaking war torn right now or dealing with civil disobedience or disorder, you show up there wearing a blue UN helmet, you are just a target. And they know you're a target because they know you have no balls. Yeah, NATO is very advantageous, but they are not without their scruples. Correct me if I'm wrong, but NATO has been implicated in some freaking unsavory things too here lately. I believe a couple, what was it? Freaking theft, terrorism, sex trafficking, and stuff like that. Yeah, a whole bunch of stuff like that. NATO in particular. And I thought Secret Service was bad. No, NATO had to take the entire piece of cake on that one. True, what military isn't? If anything, I wish our military was more like the version that was portrayed in what was it? What was the name of that movie with the freaking bug planet? Was it Stormship Troopers? Yeah, I'd go for a military like that. Yep. Yep, Starship Troopers. Everybody was on equal standing as far as like a military that was done that way. But then again, the only way you could have freaking like any rights and privileges is if you did federal service. That I would believe would be an actual improvement of America. You'd have two different classes of people. You'd have civilians, and then you'd have citizens. Civilians freaking live under the protection of the citizens and people that do federal service. They can do just about as much as they can, but freaking they need to have done something in order to freaking progress further. Do federal service, you get more rights and privileges. But then again, the whole premise of Starship Troopers of going off fighting against aliens and stuff like that turned out to be a whole bloody mess. And even if you survived, you'd be freaking kind of like a walking, talking stump with robo limbs. But yeah, I have not seen that analysis about it, but I will actually make an effort to see that one later on, Robin. But yeah, if our country didn't solely rely on nearly all volunteer military service, we'd actually be a lot better because everybody would understand what it takes to preserve our way of life, our freedoms, stuff like that, rather than just maintaining it on a volunteer basis and only based on a minute population of the population. Because it's still so freaking weird that even to this day, 1% of the entire United States population still serves. And it shouldn't just be the poor people or the few educated people that decide to serve. I look at other countries that have like the mandated service requirements. Like you have to serve anywhere between no less than 2 but no more than 5 years of military service. And then you can get all those good guaranteed things like health care, college education, all that stuff. Oh, no, 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 no. No, not like the Empire from Star Wars. Star Wars Empire was more like freaking. The Empire in Star Wars was, to me, like how how the draft or how Germany freaking during World War II and during World War One convinced their people to serve under the whole guise of do it for the fatherland, all that stuff, do it for your people, do it for your Kaiser and shit like that, or do it for all the other wrong reasons and only find out later on that how bad it was. But yeah, no, we don't need a military or a government. It's like the freaking Star Wars Empire. I mean, freaking even with the new Star Wars movies, when I saw the one where they were freaking General Hux was talking to the legions on that one planet before they fired off that giant super Death Star freaking weapon that they did. I was having like flashbacks of watching like the videos like of a certain mustachioed Austrian German dictator talking to his armies, and I saw the freaking one arm raised salute come up throughout the entire legions. It's like, ooh, no, we're finally going back to that shit again. Oh no, hell no, no. Uh, I, to be honest, Mark Turk, I am not a fan of martial law or even a diet version of that. Martial law to me is basically freaking the one thing that the government can use to curtail just about every civil liberty and right possible, just for the sake of saying, oh, the old saying, "We're from the government. We're here to help you." That's what I think about martial law right there. That's what that martial law sounds like to me. I Even to this day, even after being out for almost 20 years, I do not believe in the statement that any government official says, "We are from the government, we are here to help you." No, you're not. You're here to help yourselves. I believe that was so when they screwed over the Indians. I believe that was so when they screwed over everybody else. The government only looks out for itself, it does not look out for anybody. Once you've done your bid and service to it, they can pretty much fuck you over if they want. You know, believe it or not, there was a point where I was almost like that, Robin. But freaking, believe it or not, uh, having dealing with currently dealing and have been dealing with PTSD for a long time. Uh, uh, I have to talk to a therapist, take medication, and stuff like that, a whole bunch of other fucking things. But I constantly have to remind myself that the PTSD is not my crutch. Yeah, I experienced a lot of freaking shit. So did a whole bunch of other people while in service. But I have to tell myself that PTSD is not a debilitating thing for me. It's a oh how to sound not like a nerd but totally come off as one. To me, it's like points for character building in D&D. PTSD gives me an advantage. It means that hypervigilance and hyperawareness keeps me on a spinning pedestal of me being constantly aware of what's going around me 24 fucking 7, whether I'm awake or asleep. PTSD, even though it freaking affects me mentally, it keeps me physically, mentally sharp, like a knife on a stone, honed, constantly honed, and ready. Yep, it is a form of stasis. You're right about that one, Merc Turk. You definitely go in expecting things to be different, and then when you come back, you feel like things should have like stopped or stayed the same, but it really does. It really doesn't. Sometimes, for me, some things kind of stayed the same after I got out, but things changed in relation to kind of like how I was treated differently before and after I got out. My family, as far as like the one I was born into, raised around, kind of did a 180 on me. Yeah, freaking, I came back home, in their eyes, a hero. I came back alive, but when they started realizing freaking I was having problems, they kind of made it seem like that it was my fault and that all the things that made me great in the military made me supposedly a monster or a killing machine or a freaking psycho. When in all truth is, one, I wasn't a freaking psycho. I was just mentally hurting a lot and having nightmares and shit like that. And I would snap when they would get belligerent with me or talk shit about the military or say, oh, if I was in, I would have done this and this and that. And freaking, I would have gone this. And now I tell them, it's like, no, you fucking wouldn't. I already know you. You didn't fucking join. You were too much of a pussy. You were a dropout. Fucking, you have issues with authority. You say you fucking knock out a drill sergeant. Fucking motherfucker, you freaking mouth off one time to a drill sergeant. 5 freaking round and brown freaking hats would be flying off like fucking goddamn Billy Jack hats, slicing your ass down to the fucking ground, and you'd be feeling like a fucking punk forever saying otherwise. Not to mention most of my freaking family members that didn't serve probably would have gotten kicked out anyway. They probably would have even never made basic training. Well, good on you, Merc Jerk. I value a damn good combat medic. Fucking medics are fucking gold. And I think it's absolute shit that medics, combat medics, corpsmen and stuff like that, freaking, I do not like that they made those freaking Samaritan laws where freaking guys and girls out there can freaking get all these military qualifications in the medical field, yet when they come across somebody that's injured or hurt in an accident or freaking something worse out here in the stateside, they can't do any fucking thing because they're not an EMT or a freaking nurse or whatever. They have the fucking training and wherewithal to do trauma and ER shit, but freaking they can't help and touch a person because they could get fucking sued. Oh, Robin, don't have any guilt about staying sharp. Freaking, you did what's right. You want to take care of your people, you do that. Yeah, I feel you. I've lost a couple of guys that I knew to suicide. Some of them that didn't even freaking outwardly show any signs, and they just went off themselves. And then there was a couple guys that died of cancer. That freaking really threw me off because I didn't know they were sick. They just kind of bottled it up and they just kind of like expired. And I ended up finding till like maybe weeks, months, or even years afterwards. Oh yeah, freaking. Yeah, you figure freaking getting into a security gig after military service and stuff like that, and you have all those freaking credentials that you'd be actually working a security job that would give you a little bit more of a pay boost. But freaking working alongside a kid out of high school that doesn't have anything to offer to that job other than freaking having graduated and maybe have taken like a couple days seminar on the job training, that's freaking bullshit. You got more qualifications than that kid does. That kid should freaking go out and get some real world experience. Yeah, we may come out late in life if we make it through military service, if we make it through deployments, well, losing limb or our minds. But at least I can say this to you guys: when it comes down to this shit freaking going down, like if shit was to fall apart here in the here in the states, us vets that are freaking dealing with our shit, we would be in our fucking golden hour. We would be the most valued fucking personnel in our household, our community. We could organize in small cells and keep our people alive. We would be the freaking leaders, so to speak. Even if we weren't freaking leaders, like, like if we didn't have stripes or bars on our freaking collars and stuff like that at the time that when we served, but freaking we would be the leaders of the people that would help keep our people safe, keep them protected, keep them going in hard times. Because we would be the people that they would need and look up to carry them through this shit. So, just to you guys, or at least talking to you, Merc, Turk, and Robin, freaking, hey, ahoo, ahoo, ahoo. Sorry about that. To you guys, Robin and Merc, Turk, freaking hang in there. We have our time to shine. It may not be now, but it will definitely be our time to shine later. Yes, thank you, Gesundheit. Oh yeah, freaking vets in countries where service is conscripted or at least mandatory, they are treated a lot differently, and sometimes even better than we are. Oh yeah, yeah. Israel is finally conscripting the even the more religious groups of Jews amongst them into service, even though that was like an exception for them. Yep, the Hasidics, yeah, they're finally being pressed into service. Now that's the one thing I like about the Israeli IDF. Those are some fucking tough motherfuckers, and I'm not just talking about the men. The women, top-notch beauty, but they are not to be trifled with. Those women will fuck you up. I mean, seriously, they're no joke. I mean, honestly, if it came to like fighting in a war and fighting in another war again, for me, uh, I would rather fight with a couple of IDF personnel on either side, intermixed with some of the guys I would serve with, more than I would with, say, other groups. I mean, Rangers, Special Forces, Operation Delta attachments, SEALs, and all that stuff, they're good, but there's some tier 1 assets that freaking only work in smaller, more goal oriented operations going after like big targets. I wouldn't want to serve with them in a longer, wider field of battlefield because one, I've noticed out throughout military history, sometimes when any of the times those guys get involved with, they end up freaking sometimes taking heavy casualties. I know. Oh yeah, I've got a couple of Israeli bandages all saved up for that stuff. Yeah, yeah. Well, in defense of one's country, I think religion might have to have take the back seat because like how they say, if your country needs you to defend itself, the country needs you. And that means when you go in the military service, you might have to curtail your beliefs and whatever, and you're gonna have to fight because sooner or later it may come a time when you're having to fight on your own turf, like within your own country, not fighting in somebody else's country. You're gonna have to defend your homeland inside your homeland, and there's not gonna be time permitted to be a pacifist to pray in order to make them go away. And yeah, you're right, Merc Turk. If you want peace, prepare for war. Sic vis pacem parabellum. Yeah, if you want peace, don't pray. Grab a rifle. Well, and most if your country does start a war for whatever reason, or at least goes into it a little bit heavy-handed, and yeah, I do believe Israel kind of has gone heavy-handed on this stuff, especially going after Hamas. But then again, they've been having to defend them. Israel's been having to defend themselves for a very long damn time since Israel itself became a state. And it's kind of hard to become a country and a state when you're surrounded by people that inherently believe that you should not exist. Yeah, there were a lot of Japanese people here in the United States before Pearl Harbor had even freaking happened, and look what happened to them. Uh, it's a dark day in history when you have to acknowledge that freaking America freaking had done exactly what Germany did to the Jews, the Poles, people of lesser intelligence or different infirmity, and put them in camps. And we did that to the Japanese, people that were living here amongst us that had nothing to do with the bombings of Pearl Harbor. And I honestly believe a lot of people need an apology for that one because we took those people and put them in camps. People that had nothing to do with that. We could have easily made more enemies right there and then doing that shit. Well, the people that are in Gaza that aren't with Hamas are what we war fighters would call the the collateral damage. I mean, from my experience having been in Iraq, there were people that we were trying to help, like, get out of the danger areas. Try to be human. We tried to be humanitarian, and we tried to do the right thing by protecting them from like the Sunni or the Shiite death squads and stuff like that. But in some happenstances, the good that we tried to do ended up backfiring on us, and sometimes there would be an escalation of force or some shit. And the very people that we tried to help in Iraq, civilian wise, ended up becoming disenfranchised with our ability to help, and they ended up joining the very terror cells that we ended up fighting. So it's kind of weird how you can help people in war without contributing to it, good or negative. I mean, not to get all entirely biblical and everything. I mean, I'm relying on some of my biblical studies from when I went and got my master's in divinity when I was 26. But from a historical standpoint, that entire area has been under so much freaking conflict and transition of different tribes of people, whether they were from any of the Abrahamic religions, be it Judaism or Islam or Zoroastrian or freaking whatever. There's been so much fighting over that land based on freaking somebody believing that God said take over that land and kill the people in it. Freaking, it's been going on for freaking hundreds of thousands of years now, and even with the geopolitical times now, it just kind of makes shit all sorts of freaking fucked up. And it sucks that they can't leave. It's almost becoming like some strange apartheid. You got a point there, Robin. Believe it or not, Robin, freaking, there was a point where I was starting to think that freaking war was becoming an organized form of murder, because I've seen some guys that would use patriotism or the excuse of wanting to get revenge because they knew so and so that was in the Pentagon, or they had some distant family member they never met that died in the trade towers when the planes hit and all that other stuff. I've seen freaking guys use patriotism and strong arm tactics to justify killing another human being. And in some cases, that other human being wasn't just like wasn't the enemy or some civilian. Sometimes it was used to justify killing or fragging somebody in the same uniform. Oh yeah, Sherman's scorched or earth theory. Yeah, good old Tecumseh Sherman. It's actually good to talk about some. It's actually good for me to talk to vets about some of this stuff because freaking it definitely shows that freaking vets are not these uneducated volunteers that are warmongers and stuff. Just like how John Mass is referred to as the warrior monk. We are not just some
poorly educated freaking scum suckers, bottom of the barrel freaking high school graduates that go into this shit not knowing anything. Most of us, we are well educated in war. Some of us even had to freaking take mandatory reading of war doctrines and journals and about history and stuff like that. And it's good to talk about some of this stuff, especially with you, Turk, because you know some of this stuff right off the bat. And same with you, Robin. So I actually appreciate this ability to converse about stuff. Yep. And you want to know the most fucked up thing is that perception comes from? That perception came from all those teachers back in the day that were protesting the Vietnam War, but they were also telling students that weren't performing well in school that freaking you would not be able to get a job that would be high paying, and that you were so damn stupid or so damn poor that you would have to join the military anyway and you'd end up getting killed. And that would be like them saving them the effort. It's always the draft dodgers and the people that look down on military service that use it to freaking to hide their weakness, their own insecurities, and the simple fact that freaking they hide under this blanket of protection from the very people that they tend to discount as being freaking cannon fodder. I don't like cowards that like to hide under the privilege of freedom, knowing full and well that somebody else has to bleed, die, lose limbs, or lose their mind in order to preserve it. If anybody deserves to go to war, I think cowards should definitely be placed ahead of the freaking line. Because, you know the old adage, go to war, go to jail? Trust me, some of the people in jail will not look well on freaking people that dodged the war completely. Yeah, the only thing college is good for is getting you into freaking decades of debt and a college degree that can't get you the job you want because somebody else has that job and they have tenure. So what did you just do? You wasted anywhere between another additional 4, 6, or 8 years of schooling and racked up tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in school loans and debt. And you can't even do the thing that you freaking qualified yourself for. It's really fucked up because those people end up getting stuck with some shit that freaking they'll never be able to fucking finish paying off. I mean, I'm not college educated by any means, but I have working understanding of sociology, a working understanding of psychology, enough knowledge of economics, and enough smarts to know my way around this world to know that freaking it's not worth freaking doing something just to get a sheet of paper saying you're qualified or that you spent this amount of time educating yourself only to be told that you're overeducated and you can't possibly get this position. However, my freaking kid be able to go out in the world and get some real world experience and become like a jack of all trades, maybe a master of none or maybe a master of few, but at least I think then she would be successful because she has working knowledge and has experience that most people just don't get anymore. Oh yeah, the education loans are extremely predatory. And that's another thing. I don't like how the education loans and grants have to do. I don't like how they have to be based on how much your parents make. I don't know why they need to know how much your parents make in order for you to get a loan or a grant, just so you can cover the expenses of education for college. Why aren't they asking how much you make personally and see where they can, what you qualify for? So, what the fuck? Yeah, certain careers do have good outlooks and some others don't. But it's just, I find it unfair that freaking if you're gonna work for an education to get a job that will get you a decent placement, you have to challenge the others that are employed there because of they've got tenure, meaning that they've worked there long enough, they've got the experience and the education that secures them a position for how many more years until either they retire or expire, and then their opening comes up, and then you have to compete with the apprentices and the person that was waiting in line ahead of you to take that spot. So, in short, it kind of reminds me of how the monarchy and the British Empire has to deal with the line of succession. If your job has to deal with, if the job you want to get has to deal with lines of succession, freaking, you're never going to get anywhere. Exactly, Robin. Exactly. Trust fund babies and freaking dispersals based on freaking how things are. Yep, co-signing of loans, because if you default, it's going to end up coming out of somebody else's wallet. Or worse, they'll end up kicking you out because you can't pay. I always thought financial assistance was a bitch when it came to school. When it comes to schooling. Excuse me one moment. I gotta go downstairs and get myself a drink. Hold up. I'm back. If I could say anything about security jobs, uh, most of them are pretty just bland. Vast majority of them aren't even armed security jobs because freaking the ones that are armed, they require you to have to go through qualifications and certifications and whatnot, and that costs extra. And even though it pays more, freaking, it's just a lot of red tape. And most security jobs won't even allow you to carry a gun nowadays because they don't have the insurance to cover liability and stuff like that. I mean, I did a security job unarmed for about 6 months until it freaking folded up because it turns out like my boss was doing some shady shit.
Hey, don't feel too bad. Uh, I'm raising snakes. I mean, literally, I got into something that I was scared of as a kid. So I'm breeding snakes, ball pythons, and boa constrictors. I got into animal husbandry of all fucking things. In a way, these snakes are kind of like my therapy. If I ever feel nervous or shaky or feeling like I'm about to be emotionally compromised, I just take one of them out and let them wrap around me. It definitely activates that sympathetic nerve system, so it's kind of like being hugged. Mm. Because I have such an understanding with these animals, they just kind of like understand, so they just kind of hold me. You talking about that one boa that got killed by the FWC when they were told not to kill it when they were coming for that one guy's collection? Yeah, that was sad. What was sad was that it was a pregnant female that would have been laying a litter of boas worth over thousands of dollars. I know how that feels because I've already had a boa lay a litter, and I've got one baby snake from that litter that's worth about $900 to $1,000 right off the bat, and it was only one. All right, you take it easy, Robin. Have a good day. All right, stay positive. Okay. Oh wow. Whew. I have been on here for 2 hours and 12 minutes. Whew. God damn. And here I was trying to make this a short talk about gun ownership and being responsible with great power and all the other stuff. Turned out to be a little bit more. Then again, but then again, sometimes it's okay to stray off topic. Other things do come up, and some people are interested in a lot of things. So, all right, you go ahead and take a break, Mark. Don't let me. Don't let me hold you up. Oh, thanks for the sub. I appreciate that. All right. See you too, Merc Turk. Take it easy. I'll probably take a break right here now because I got a I got a package that's supposed to be coming today, and it's been something I've been needing for my snake stuff, and I've been waiting on like almost a week for it. And oh boy, some of the stuff is something I need, like rat food, because the rats are getting hungry, and I've been feeding them dog food, so they need something a little bit more nutritionally substantive if I want to create more rats to become feeders and breeders for my snakes. All right. I'm gonna cut it off right here. If I'm on any other time, you know where to find me. Topics are gonna vary. Really, just depends on what keys off. But thank you all for showing up, listening, asking questions, and have a good day. Peace.